Grandmama used to pray, oh Lord, please save them from the evil snares and all the dangers that entangle. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle, because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. Right, we still survive and offer grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps is inconspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity, like living in a fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading. Look, they don't need a reason. It's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. So they got me screaming. This gritty city got me on some. Look, get your hand up on my pocket. Distraction, so lazy they use the same tactics, like condom with some trinkets. Just don't let them get to thinking. That light bulb gets a blinking. You know niggas and ideas. Oh dear, my dear, you may not know me, but I know you very well. Foresight, they say hindsight is 2020. Well, tell me something, we gotta see that history is on repeat, and maybe it takes a beat and a melody to speak a little louder than the message in the clouds or the essence in the air. I swear, my God is just so clear that a system driven by fear can never give us nothing but more of the same things. Oh, when it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming. It's murder. Got me screaming, got me. This gritty city got me on some.
What's happening? It's RSTV, and we are live and direct. Thank you all for stopping through. It is a very important day. It's a monumental day. Oftentimes, we celebrate and we commemorate wherever the state gives us. And today we wanted to make sure that we celebrate and commemorate the birth of two of our greatest freedom fighters. On this day, July 2nd, 1925, the world gave birth to Medgar Evers in Mississippi and to Patrice Lumumba in the Congo, right? Two of our most important freedom fighters who we don't often hear about, 1925 was a great year. It was also the year that El Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, was born. So it is fitting that we commemorate both of these brothers. All three of the brothers I just mentioned never saw the age of 40. Let me remind you that this is war when it comes to African people home and abroad. Patrice Lumumba assassinated at the age of 35, going on 36. I always thought it was 36, but it was actually 35 that he was assassinated. And Medgar Evers, 37 years old, 2 or 3 weeks before his 38th birthday. With me today, we have a whole lot of thoroughbreds, we're gonna say. We have some brothers and sisters who have put in work and continuously put in work. And this brother to the side of me, I know y'all like, well, who is he? He doesn't look like you. That's my twin brother, Kwame.
Thank goodness.
I'm the more handsome of the brothers, of course. But I have with me my brother Kwame Wilberg from Friends of the Congo. What's happening, Kwame?
Hey, greetings, Kalonji. Greetings, family, and much respect to all the audience that could join us today. For, as you said, this is a sacred day in terms of that particular vibration and that spiritual level, but also in terms of the work. These brothers were culturally connected and clear, but they're also engaged in objective material work that in the end ended up costing them their lives. But we're here to celebrate their lives and their legacy. Medgar Evers and Patrice Lumumba. Thinking of those other, I'm glad you mentioned the others who were born in 1925. And for those from 1925 who are still here, still working, In that spirit, we want to salute elder from Guyana. I must take the time to crave your indulgence for a second, brother UC Quayana,
Yes.
who continues to soldier on, continues to serve the people. And I just want to say, in tribute to all those ancestors who have made it possible for us to be here today, for us to pick up the baton that they passed on, Medgar Evers and Patrice Lumumba, Lumumba among those. We want to pour, in a way, pour symbolic libation to recognize their work, their offerings. We want to salute those who continue to struggle today
Yes.
and to make a way for those who are yet to come. We want to say that what Medgar Evers and Patrice Lumumba offered for us was to say that sometimes when the struggle gets hard or when it gets tedious or frustrating, we should remember and recall what they were up against. And they didn't surrender. They didn't retreat. They carry on. And it's that beautiful gift, I would say, that beautiful opportunity to serve that they have passed on to us today. And so we are so glad that you've taken the time out to join us on this sacred day. And we're going to have, as Kalonji mentioned, we're going to have comrades from Mississippi, but also comrades representing the Congolese experience. We're going to be joined by our comrade Maurice Carney, Executive Director from Friends of the Congo, to share about Patrice Lumumba's work and life. We're joined by Brother Akil Bukari from MXGM, and also Brother Wendell Paris, who's going to be joining us in a few. We'll do an intro a little later. But in terms of over, and I certainly want to salute the team that worked on putting together this gathering, this memorial. I want to say memorial of these elders is probably an appropriate word, but it's much needed to help us continue our struggle. So, and big respect to BPM for always showing up, and FTP and the other formations that are still engaged in doing the work. So, salutations, comrades.
Hey, yes, 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 yes. Well, we're happy to have you on. We're happy to have all the brothers and sisters that will be joining us today. And I appreciate you giving us that that solid you know, solid delivery, because it's absolutely mandatory. I think that the sad thing about it, when you think about folks like Mega Evers, a lot of people aren't familiar. He's not a name that would be considered a household name, yet he
Mhm.
put in some heavy duty work. And I like to shout out all of our comrades in places like Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee and Louisiana and Arkansas
Yes.
and Georgia, who 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 risk their lives daily. You know what I'm saying? Especially those
Yeah.
who came up out of the quote unquote civil rights era, right?
Yes.
And we talk about the civil rights era, we're talking about something that predates the quote unquote Black Power movement.
Mm.
So there was a lot of brave folks out there,
Yeah.
including Medgar Evers. So, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
And before you go into, because we're going to introduce our presenters in a minute, I
yeah,
just want to say, when you talk about the civil rights struggle and people look at it as somehow less than a revolutionary action, right?
that's
But
right.
when you think of what they were up against, greatest military power on the face of the earth, these youths up against the might of the empire. And not being overly dramatic about it. We saw the pictures of people turning loose dogs on little children, fire hoses, cannons, and ultimately unleashing lethal force against
Right.
our ancestors here in the United States. I want to say, as someone hailing from the Caribbean, maybe sometimes it's lost in the narrative that the amount of appreciation that we coming from elsewhere, the Caribbean and elsewhere, have tremendous appreciation for the blood, sweat, and tears that went in to liberate spaces in the United States so that we could come and make use, have the privilege, have the opportunities that because of empire disrupting our homelands, oftentimes we have to come here. But we come here and we enjoy these opportunities because of struggles like the likes of Medgar Evers, the likes of Malcolm X, and so many people who continue today. And in that vein, I want to salute the Evers family, Kalanji, and I'm sure our guest will probably touch on that a little, but I was lucky enough to hear Mama Evers on an interview, and it's just heartrending. And she says we must not forget the work of her husband. And I certainly want to offer a revolutionary, a love salute to the Evers family.
Right. And this is, for the record, and of course, we're going to bring our guests on. We want to remind you the brutal assassinations that both of these brothers suffered. You're talking about both transitioning in the most cowardice ways. You know what I'm saying? From the most cowardice people, rather. You're talking about a white supremacist who literally shot Medgar Evers in the back in front of his home with his wife and children inside of his home. You know what I mean? You talk about Patrice Lumumba, who was put in front of a firing squad and whose body was chopped up and dipped in acid, so on and so forth. So this is how the brutal nature of the beast. But without further ado, we want to go ahead and bring some of our folks on.
Yes,
introduction.
Mr. So we're gonna bring up Baba, I would say, with all due respect, Wendell Paris, the field secretary of the NAACP, understanding that Medgar Evers was the first field secretary down in Mississippi. Wendell Paris took over after Medgar Evers' assassination, and he has agreed to join us this Sunday to share his reflections on this journey. And I'm feeling that, this is celebrating their birthdays, but yet I'm torn because I'm feeling that vibration of how you entered into that. And so, Baba Wendell, you could share a little bit more about yourself, and we are honored to have you with us today.
Oh, well, thank you so very much. Let me say up front, the honor is mine, and I appreciate all of you allowing me to participate in this most worthwhile program where we look at the interconnectedness of what is going on worldwide to stop our people from becoming the great and grand people that we are, and then working in collaboration to stop us from achieving the political power and economic power and the land holdings that we know that are rightfully ours. And so every opportunity I have, I gladly speak to that. Let me make one correction. I did not follow immediately Medgar Evers in the position as the field secretary of Mississippi. Needs to say when he was assassinated in '63, there were others that served in that capacity. I probably was the last one to serve. Well, they call in the position something else now, but thank goodness the work is continuously going on. Medgar Evers, as has been mentioned earlier, a lot of people do not know the significant impact of the work of Medgar Evers in Mississippi. I think he started with the NAACP as the first field secretary around 1954. In fact, 1 year before the killing of Emmett Till that took place in Money, Mississippi, the 14-year-old there, Medgar was the one that reported to the magazines and to the national office of the NAACP this atrocious murder of Emmett Till. So, and he accompanied Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley to the kangaroo court in Mississippi, where I call it kangaroo because the state of Mississippi served as both the prosecution and the defense in that trial with Emmett Till. But Medgar is known some there. But what we don't really get the community at large to appreciate is that Medgar was the primary organizer of a group that was called the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, the MFDP. It was a freedom party comprised of people seeking the right to vote. These folks didn't have the right to vote. So he set up a political party comprised of people who didn't even have the right to vote. And they revolutionized political powers in this country, What I mean by that, some of you heard of the Mississippi Summer Challenge to the Democratic Party. Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer really came into prominence there. And she came into prominence because the challenge was that the Freedom Democratic Party was asking the National Democratic Committee and the National Democratic Party to seat their delegation, composed of white people, black people, poor people, large landowners, sharecroppers. Everybody was a part of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And they were asking to be seated because the regular Democratic Party of Mississippi wasn't going to even vote for the Democratic nominee. All of them knew it. They were not going to vote for Johnson. They were voting for Goldwater. But they seated these rascals anyway. But Medgar, the point I want to make is that Medgar really organized that Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And the first time that it was established, the first time that the major civil rights organizations in the United States came together under one umbrella. You had the NAACP, the Congress of Racial Equality, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. All of them were working together. But that, as brilliant as that was, and as good as that work was, they provided that even the local civil rights organizations, at county levels and at city level, everybody came to the table and everybody had an equal right to vote there. And that is what's so significant about it. It wasn't any big I's and little U's in the organization that they established called Council of Federated Organizations. Well, that Council of Federated Organizations led to the establishment of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Although they did not seat the delegates of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party at the convention in New Jersey in 1964, the platform that came out of that said, we will never again seat a delegation that is not representative or does not reflect the population makeup of a particular state. So not only did they have to include black people in those delegations that came from Mississippi, but Alabama, all across, everybody now had to have delegates coming to those conventions that have a proportionate number of black people and a proportionate number of women. And it's that proportionate number of black people and women that's responsible for the election of Barack Obama as the first president of the United States. So when we look back at Medgar Evers, yes, he is an organizer extraordinaire. And we have to look at the things that were going on in Mississippi and going on worldwide with Patrice Lumumba, because both of them were killed by the establishment. I mean, they were organizing against Medgar Evers through a thing called the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission. The Mississippi Sovereignty Commission is for the folks who did the surreptitious underground work of the Ku Klux Klan. And this underground work of the Ku Klux Klan and the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission is what killed those 3 civil rights workers, Chaney, Goodwin, and Swernick. They don't want the Sovereignty Commission paid it. The Sovereignty Commission, the salary of the people that worked for the Sovereignty Commission was paid by the FBI. So when we're looking at, we know the relationship, or we heard some about the relationship that the CIA did in the killing of Patrice Lumumba. The same thing is true with Medgar Evers. The federal government, the United States government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation funded the people who were responsible for the assassination of Medgar Evers. Let me just stop there, okay?
Now you mentioned you mentioned the Sovereign Commission, right? Sovereignty Commission.
Sovereignty Commission, yes.
Right. And I know that for folks who are unfamiliar, we're talking about, these are people who basically is another form of counterinsurgency or counterintelligence. Exactly. And I knew they used a number of different black preachers, ministers, etc.
Musicians.
Yeah. Can you kind of speak to that briefly? I know we have other folks, but I definitely know.
Yes, they did. Understand now, this is a state-supported thing.
Right.
The Sovereignty Commission was established by the state of Mississippi following the Brown decision with Topeka, Kansas, with the desegregation of the schools. So they saw it necessary to establish a thing that, well, several organizations. And one of those was the Sovereignty Commission, whose expressive purpose was to block, to stop any type of civil rights development from taking place in the state of Mississippi. Now, Alabama had a similar commission. I can't remember what it was called, probably all across the South. And these things are still in place, you all. They have not gone out of existence. They just don't claim them anymore. But the Sovereignty Commission bought people, like anybody who was weak enough to be purchased, they bought them. They did all type of insurgent things, even with the NAACP. If the organization set up a youth chapter and maybe had a bank account with $25, the president of those banks had to send notice to the Sovereignty Commission to say who were the principals, that were the students or the young people that were involved there, and who were the folks that were serving as their sponsors. So all that was a part of that counterintelligence thing, that COINTELPRO operation, if you will, that was taking place in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
But that connectivity is there. I mean, the United States government is who we were fighting in both instances to stop us. And you know, when we look at the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, that came about because when you saw the independent nations of Africa and South America all coming into existence, then they were making the United States get off of telling that lie that you know, this is the most sovereign nation, the most democratic nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. Well, SNCC, and I worked with SNCC, you know, in my college years, and under with Stokely Carmichael and Rap Brown, and John Lewis as well. But when SNCC went down to the Peachtree Manor Hotel to talk to Mr. Oginga Odinga, who was of Kenya, the second man under Jomo Kenyatta, and they wouldn't allow the SNCC workers to come into the hotel because it was segregated. That's when Oginga Odinga came out and made the statement, Uhuru. We call it Uhuru, freedom.
Yes.
He came out and said, Uhuru Sasa, freedom of the land, freedom of the people. And so when he went back, he was telling folks, the United States ain't all this cranked up to be. Our people, they're in the hotel with them. Our people don't have the right to vote. And when all of this started to come out into the world in general, Black people in general finding out what's happening, that's when they had to come across with the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which is a temporary act, ladies and gentlemen. Passed in 1965, extended in 1970, extended again in 1975, extended again in 1982, extended again in 2003. But I sit here today still a temporary citizen of the country by birth. I don't have full voting rights. I don't have full voting rights. And all the people of Alabama, all the people of Mississippi, South Carolina, Georgia, portions of Florida, portions of Texas, portions of Chicago, portions of New York City, we have temporary voting rights in this country.
Wow. We're going to definitely get back to more of that. We have bring on our brother Maurice Carney, who's going to talk about the Congo. I want to real quick before we bring him on, for folks who and I salute you, Baba Wendell and Medgar, because it takes for folks to actually organize in the South to get an understanding of what organizing is about. I organize all up and down the East Coast, the West Coast, Midwest, so on and so forth, and I organize on dirt roads in Mississippi. You understand what I'm saying? So I know how this thing go, and to this day, there's certain states that I dread going through. I hate to get invitations to Alabama, hate to get invitations to Mississippi and places like that. So I commend you all for being brave enough to not only exist there, but to even attempt to organize. So thank you for that.
We shall win together.
Without a doubt. Brother Maurice Carney, who is a great organizer from Friends of the Congo, who I won't hold anything against because he's a comrade of Kwame. But we can bring this good brother on right now. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm good,
Welcome
man.
in,
Good
welcome in.
yourself.
We good.
Always joy and good spirits being on with you, and with you and Kwame. We're in for a treat this afternoon. That's for sure.
Say us in the same sentence. No.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, what's going on, brother? We glad to have you again. You actually used to be a host on BPM, but we talked about it, but for reasons we know, it's one thing that's holding us back. But let's talk about our brother Patrice Lumumba, who we mentioned. Him and Medgar would have been 98 years old today.
Yes.
Give us some for folks who are unfamiliar. We take for granted that we think that everyone that's Black should know certain people, and everyone that's African should know certain people, but we know that's not the fact, it's not the truth. So give us some feedback. Who is Patrice Lumumba, and why are we celebrating?
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to thank you. Thank you for continuously providing us with a platform to raise our people's consciousness, not only about what has transpired among the best of our freedom fighters, but the work that we still must continue to carry on. And both you and Kwame highlighted the amazing models that we've had. We were born in 1925 with Malcolm X on May 19th, 1925. You mentioned Frantz Fanon, July 20th, and of course Medgar and Lumumba. So we following a rich tradition, and I wanted to. Speaking of Malcolm, I wanted to share something based on what our brother Paris had said. As you know, Malcolm established the Organization of Afro-American Unity in 1964 and modeled it after the Organization of African Unity, which was established a year before. And he would often have gatherings or groundings in the Audubon Ballroom in New York. And there's a quote that we carry with us often and share with people, especially when folks forget how connected we are, Africans at home, Africans abroad, whether in the Caribbean or Central America or in the United States. And this is a quote from a December 1964 speech. Malcolm, and I'll quote it directly just so to get the full context of it. He says, I for one would like to impress, especially upon those who call themselves leaders, the importance of realizing the direct connection between the struggle of the Afro-American in this country and the struggle of our people all over the world. As long as we think, as one of my good brothers mentioned out of the side of his mouth here a couple Sundays ago, that we should get Mississippi straightened out before we worry about the Congo, you'll never get Mississippi straightened out. So that's the spirit of bringing together Medgar and Patrice, that we're one people, one struggle, fully cognizant that one part of the African world cannot be straightened out without the other part being straightened out. And our base, our home base, the continent, the heart of the home base, produced what Malcolm said was the greatest leader that ever walked the African continent.
That's right. That's important. Repeat that, because like you said, that is something that is often overlooked. And by the way, that quote that you just read, I mean, it literally brought chills through me because of the fact that, we have to internalize this and really feel, what it is that our comrades and our elders and our ancestors was trying to bring across. But repeat what Malcolm said about Patrice and Africa, basically.
Yeah, he said Lumumba was, and this again was in '64. He said Lumumba was the greatest African that ever walked the continent. And the reason why he said that, he said They couldn't reach him. They couldn't touch him. He couldn't be bought off. He didn't sell out. He was a freedom fighter for his people. And once the imperialists, the colonized, recognized that, they're like, the only way we can deal with this one is that we have to get rid of him. Because there's no corrupting him, no buying him off, there's no selling out going on there. So Malcolm, he recognized the significance of Lumumba, of the Congo. You peruse any of his speeches, you'll find that he spoke about Lumumba, throughout the great debate that he had at Oxford. A good portion, a solid portion of that was about the Congo and what was happening in the Congo. He named his daughter, one of his daughters after Lumumba. So the centrality of Lumumba, the centrality of the Congo. By the way, Lumumba's initial name, is named by both his father and his mother, was Isaiah Tasumbu Tawasa. Isaiah Tasumbu Tawasa. And it was his maternal uncle that gave him the name of Lumumba. And then Lumumba himself adopted the name Patrice Emery. So with Lumumba adopting the name Patrice Emery and his uncle giving him the name Lumumba, that's how we arrive at Patrice Emery Lumumba, born in July 2nd, 1925 in a small village in the central part of the Congo. And a few key things about him. He was recognized as, at least his father initially, recognized him as being curious, inquisitive, wanting to know more, had this deep desire for learning and knowledge. In fact, Lumumba himself asked his father to send him to school. He's like, I want to go to the schools that were set up there at the time were missionary schools. And his father agreed and sent him to a missionary school. And he excelled in missionary school. Not only did he excel, but he also challenged the manner in which the teachers were teaching. And as a result of his challenging the teachers, he wound up being kicked out of the missionary schools. But early on, he demonstrated the type of courage, the type of vision that you would see later as an adult. The rural village that he lived in had a colonial administrator, and who would oversee the villagers who were picking cotton. Sound familiar? Mississippi, Congo.
Oh, yes.
So Lumumba didn't like the way in which the administrator was treating the workers. They would bring cotton, and he was, the colonial administrator was getting on them, saying that the cotton that you're bringing is too wet. You need to dry it out some more so that we can get a better quality cotton. And they would bring it, and he would just, dismiss them, not give them what they fully deserved. So Lumumba observed this as a child. He was about 12 years old or so. And so he told his friends, I'm going to go talk to that colonial administrator. And they looked at him like he was crazy. Like, you're going to go talk to who? He said, I'm going to go talk to him about the way he's treating the workers. So he went up to the Belgian, and spoke to him about what he thought, the type of treatment that he thought the people should be getting. And the Belgian colonial administrator was so stupefied. He's like, this 12-year-old coming up to me, I'm the authority over all of these people, and telling me how I should treat the cotton pickers. And he was struck by Lumumba's courage and bravery, right? And there's a lesson in that about our standing up to authority. He was so struck that he actually listened to Lumumba and did what he could to change the conditions. Now, what happened was that not only Lumumba's peers, but also the elders around him saw what he did. So the elders in the community went to Lumumba's father and told him, this boy that you got is a visionary. He's special. And we saw that throughout Lumumba's political career as he advanced. One of the key things about Lumumba was his ability to persuade others through argument, through exchange, to see his way of seeing things, right? And this came through. Even Lumumba's enemies recognized this. The chief of station of the CIA in the Congo, his name is Larry Devlin, and he wrote a book called Chief of Station Congo. Don't buy it, but it's worth reading to see the playbook. Brother Paris was talking about how the white supremacist system, disrupt, overturn, assassinate our people. This book by Devlin is really a playbook of how the United States, through its Central Intelligence Agency, goes about dismantling democratic institutions around the world. Whether we're talking about Mogadishu in Iran, or Allende in Chile, and Guzman in Guatemala, you just name it. Lumumba and Congo is a case of that, where the CIA goes in, corrupt local elites, discredit attempt to discredit established leaders in concert with the corporate media. But what Devlin said about Lumumba was, he said, with Lumumba, if we were to leave him alone, leave him to his own devices to make arguments in the parliament, then we wouldn't stand a chance. So Devlin said, my job was to move the fight from a space of dialogue and exchange and persuasion into the streets, where we're talking about violence. And it's bringing the fight into the street and using violence that we can get, we'll be able to get rid of Lumumba. That's where the field would be leveled, through violence. But if we were to just leave it to dialogue and exchange in the parliament and try and influence folks to go up against Lumumba, it would be like a closed case. So that was one of the key characteristics of Lumumba, in that he was a persuasive speaker. In addition to that, from a very early age, his friends used to make fun of him. Lumumba's friends used to make fun of him because he'd always go to the library and he'd always be reading, trying to find out, garner more information, more education. So he was an avid reader, delved into all kinds of books, all kinds of stories as a child. And this continued throughout his adulthood. At a certain time, by the time he was in his late teenagers, around 19 or so, he had moved to another city out of the village, and at the time it was called Stanleyville, and today's Kisangani. Some of you may be familiar with it, with V.S. Nepal's Bend in the River. Kisangani is a crucial city, a strategic city in the Congo when it comes to politics, when it comes to geography, when it comes to the economy of the country. It's a key city. So he went there to work, and while he was working in Kisangani, he was taking night school. He went to the library every day. He was writing for journals. So he was really a self-made intellectual. This is a thinker. By the mid-1950s, in his early 30s or so, he had already written a book, Congo, My Country. It wasn't published until later. But we see that Lumumba was in the model of his mentor in Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah was a giant intellectual, wrote some 14, 15 books or so, was a thinker, was not only engaged in politics for the sake of politics, but engaged in politics to see how he can liberate not only his people in a particular nation, but the continent as a whole and Africans globally. So that is the model in which we find Lumumba. Courageous, visionary, intellectually grounded, a scholar, a thinker. And this is the beautiful spirit that came out of the heart of the African continent, that was a nationalist and a pan-Africanist. The CIA and the US government tried to put him in the camp as a communist and saying, well, because he was a communist, that's why we had to get rid of him. They rationalized it in that way. So I know there's much more to be said about Lumumba, but we don't often hear about the early years and how Lumumba was the formative years, how he was as a child and how he was grounded in a deep and profound love for his people, which is exhibited in that example I gave you when he was 12 years old and confronting the colonial administrator on behalf of the cotton pickers, the villagers in his part of the country.
Excellent.
We definitely appreciate you sharing with us. Of course, we will be back for Q&A. We have a few other folks that will be joining us momentarily. I want to also invite folks to check out the interview that I did with Patrice's daughter, Juliana, maybe about a year or so ago. And thank you to Friends of the Congo for helping to facilitate that particular interview. But if you haven't checked it out, we have the interview with Juliana. Also, there's a pretty good interview with Frank Non's daughter as well, that I encourage you all to check out. And I'm saying all this just to remind you that when we talk about Black Power media, sometimes we forget about the Black Power. You know what I'm saying? We want to remind folks that we are an African-based platform, and that that we have no qualms about putting Africa first, because Africa is the birthplace of humanity. But who we got next, Kwame? I know you will.
Well, yeah, we got brother Akil, in that spirit that Maurice was mentioning, that both of these ancestors committed to the struggle as young people, using education, using these systems as a means for liberation. It's not only the system, it's using it to help liberate our people. So we have our brother Akil Bakari from the member of the New African People's Organization and the Malcolm X grassroots movement. And he's done so much more for our people. In the interest of time, Brother Bakari, I'm going to ask you to indulge me. I wouldn't read your whole bio, to share with the audience a little bit more about yourself. And again, thank you so much for joining us today and for your ongoing commitment to struggling for the people. Big respect to MXGM also.
If all the praise you gave me off camera, your mic is muted though, brother.
You're muted, brother.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Kwame and Brother Changa, for those kind words. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me. As much as we learn, read, and study throughout the course of our lives, we always learn something every day. I appreciate Baba Paris, Brother Carney, for those nuggets of information. No matter how deep you study, you can always learn something. And I'm really appreciative for the information that they gave. Brother Paris, we have worked together in the past through Brother Hollis Watkins.
Oh, yes. No doubt.
Absolutely. And Dwayne Boyd. Kwame, I was hoping Dwayne, I got a chance. Hope he comes on. I hadn't seen him in ages.
He'll be here.
But again, I just a brother who born in St. Louis, Missouri. Folks moved here when I was very young in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, and who just wants to contribute to the legacy of struggle that is in the heart of the beast in Mississippi, as the sister Nina Simone said, Mississippi, goddamn, or America, goddamn. Just part of that legacy and that struggle. Over the years, having being mentored by the late Baba Chokwe Lumumba, the late Baba Ahmed Obafemi, and others too numerous to mention. I humbly thank them for instilling in me the idea of serving our people in the best way that I know how. My work began late in life as opposed to other people in my early 30s, around 31 years old, when late Mayor Lumumba and Chokwe Lumumba actually came to Jackson the second time in 1988 and began to work and establish New African People's Organization. And since that point in time, we've modeled ourselves, obviously, after the work and organizing amongst our people that Medgar set a precedent for, and even that he followed others that came before him. Um, the struggle obviously takes many forms. It takes many areas of struggle on different fronts. Uh, we've always here tried to make sure we were grounded amongst our people and be informed by our people in our struggles, and not be ahead of our folks in a lot of ways that we somehow know best. We somehow, our theory is better. We try our best to organize where our people are. And there are unique struggles in Jackson, Mississippi, and Mississippi as a whole, particularly with what's happening today and in the current times. And obviously these times is like Back to the Future. We've seen this before. This is nothing new. It's like it was in the 20th century, here in the 21st century. So again, I'll be extremely brief in that regard. I'm just thrilled in being able to listen to the folks that have come before, Brother Carney and Brother Parrott, for the information that they've given, which is priceless. So again, thank you all for having me on.
Right on, right on.
Yeah,
appreciate
Sante
you.
Sana.
Yeah, and shout out to again to Friends of the Congo for reaching out to bring this to BPM and for Africans worldwide. Please know that this is your home when you're talking about freedom fighting, when you're talking about revolution and unification, because I know that oftentimes people say they weren't invited, but if we don't know you exist, then stick your head up, let us know, throw your hand up, throw your fist up, and at the same time, promote what we're giving you. And I think we're giving some pretty good things. But we have another brother whose name was just mentioned a few minutes ago.
But-
Brother
Yeah,
Kwame, son.
yeah, brother Dewey Boyd is a longtime campaigner for, I would say, human rights, fighting the good fight in terms of dealing also with this question of the spaces that we're in, whether it be in Mississippi or in the continent. We are people who are subject to being picked up and moved en masse to other places, but also having our land taken from under our feet. So I'm gonna uh, ask Brother Dwayne Boyd, as Brother Akil mentioned, to share a little bit more about himself, about his work. But I want to extend our gratitude, uh, the support, certainly a strong supporter of the work of Friends of the Congo and our people in general. So, Brother Dewey Boyd, are you there? Can we?
I see. It looks like he stepped away from the camera. We'll bring him on as soon as he comes back. I
Right.
can see you can see the camera.
I
But
just want to say the point that Brother Akil mentioned in terms of the collaboration and the work. I always tell folks, and I have my executive director on, so I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. But Friends of the Congo, we don't have all the answers to African liberation. That's why we want you involved. If we had the answers, we'd be out of here. We'd be like, see you later, right? So, our integrity, our collaboration with each other is I would say, a revolutionary, if you may, our collaborative responsibility. Right. They're building these bonds, as Baba Yusi Koyano once mentioned. We need to build those connections that are able to withstand the wrath of the empire. I mean, that was the Ma'afa, right? Divide us into pieces. Or if you want to go further back, not being too spiritual, Asara said, right? Divide us. So
right,
our work, as Ngugi points out, is this remembering, putting the pieces back together, because independently we don't have the whole answer to our healing, all our liberation. And I really respect the work of MXGM and folks like FTP, you know, and despite, you know, Kalonji's work, we know he ain't got all the answers. He needs us. So
I got the answers. No, but you know, to your point, and I'm glad you mentioned Asar, because when you talked about the splitting pieces, I thought of Asar, but at the same time I thought about Patrice, and I thought about correlation of how, you know, here it is. This is a brother like Nkrumah that was looking to bring Africa together, and it's symbolic that they actually chopped him up into pieces and put him in a bath of acid to show you what they feel about Africa as a whole. I think that was a lesson in and of itself. But I think we got Brother Dewey back. Brother Dewey looked like he in the building. I think he has his apron on, so he's chilling. Okay. you bring your camera down a little bit, Brother Dewey, so we can see your face. We about to bring you on, Brother Dewey. Okay, here we go. What's happening, brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm running around like a chicken with his head cut off right now, trying to feed these folks.
I saw you with the apron on. I'm like, man, he over there chefing. He like, man, I've been on here too long. Y'all lollygagging.
We're wearing 7 hats today, but I'm good. How's everybody? It's an honor and a pleasure to be here amongst you all, and especially to, I would say, my 2 mentors here, Mr. Wendell Paris and Brother Akil.
Hey, brother.
Much love. Much love.
Hey, man.
All right, man. It's been too long. Been too long.
Yes, it has been a while, my brother. It has been a while. Okay, so what do you guys have for me? What's my role here? Where do I chime in? From what perspective? At what point?
I guess for starts, give us a intro of who you are. I know we already got the family reunion. I take it you down to Mississippi, you know. So give us some feedback on who you are and your role in regards to you know, what it is that you have to offer in regards to the life of Medgar Evers.
Okay, so how do I come in there? In that respect, I would have to say, first of all, as you know, Akil, my family are in Mississippi, out of Oktibbeha County, Starkville, Mississippi, the county seat for where Mississippi State University is located. You guys mentioned the Sovereignty Commission. One of the main halls there at Mississippi State University is named after the attorney for the Sovereignty Commission, Ben Hilbin Jr., is named after his father, Ben F. Hilbin Sr. I came on the scene to Mississippi by way, you know, I'm originally from Detroit, family roots in Mississippi there, but I came to Mississippi by way of Sacramento, California, after roughly a 10-year stint under the mentorship of then Speaker of the California Legislature, Willie Lewis Brown, who later went on to become mayor of San Francisco, all of that entails. And coming from, after my tenure with, I spent about 10 years under Willie Brown in the California Legislature as part of his advisory committee on Blacks in Agriculture. I transitioned from California around about that time. You said Chokwe was there in 1988, 89, somewhere around in there. Went to the farm there in Mississippi because what I gained from Willie Brown, you know, my family had roughly, we're the largest landowners in Oktibbeha County. At that time, we had about 636 acres there, prime farmland in Oktibbeha County. So I wanted to do this farming thing. Coming from Detroit, we had an environment where all of the grocery outlets were controlled by Arabs, Chaldeans. And how I got there was one day around the summer of 1970, 75, 76, there was a front page article in the Detroit News interviewing an Iraqi grocer. And the question that the reporter asked the Iraqi grocer was, how is it that you, as an Iraqi, knew to come from half a world away to open or go into the grocery business in a predominantly Black city like Detroit? Out of all the answers that Iraqi grocer could have gave, his answer to that reporter was, Black people were just like cattle and somebody had to feed them. Wow. I blew my top. If any of you guys have a country or farming background, if you ever seen a cow out in the field chewing his cud, seeing how content he is, he ain't got a care in the world. This is what this reporter equated us as a people to. So knowing that my family had this farmland down in Detroit, and this is what started. I went to my grandmother. I asked her, could I get a portion of the land to grow? It's rather naive in the beginning, but I wanted to grow vegetables and so forth to ship back to the city of Detroit to show these people that we weren't like cattle. We were capable of feeding ourselves. That began it. So when I went to Mississippi in that respect, the first travel down, I ran into the adjacent white farmer. This is how Chokwe came to be my lawyer. The adjacent white farmer was, what I discovered was he was only supposed to have 166 acres of our estate. What the farmer did, because my grandmother was in control, and she was like 83 years old at the time, and my dad and my uncles, nobody wanted any parts of Mississippi for historical reasons. She was the one that kept the taxes paid and all of this. So when I go, I find that the white guy had, his name was Dudley Waldrop of Waldrop Farms. He was a dairy farmer that controlled 3,500 acres adjacent to us, had a 500 head hosting dairy operation, and had all of the surrounding land except for ours. So how they were working my grandmother, what I learned was this guy was leasing for $10 a year, $10 an acre, 166 acres from my grandmother. And he had pushed up an additional 23 acres that he enrolled in USDA programs to receive subsidy payments. Wow. So upon my initial discovery, I found out that the white farmer and that city attorney, who is the attorney for the Sovereignty Commission, had enrolled my grandmother's land in USDA subsidy programs where they were receiving subsidies for over 20 years based on a forgery of my grandmother's signature. And from that, I reported that to USDA and filed a whistleblower's complaint, which led to them being fined, I think it was something like $250,000 for each check that they had received in subsidies over that 20-year period, and it ran into the millions of dollars. And that began my travail where the white power structure of Mississippi, and I didn't know who these people were at the time. All I knew was these is white folks that was taking my family's land that my grandmother had gave to me. So I'm fighting for what's mine. In that fight, I discovered who I was up against, but it didn't matter to me. This is mine, you're not taking it from me. Right on. So what happened then, the white farmer and the city attorney and the sheriff all came against me to basically get me out of the way. And in doing that, the short of it is they set a $200,000 case tractor, 4-wheel drive, that was on my grandmother's land afire, and said that I was the person that torched it. That was their way to get rid of me. The sheriff, being their henchman, Dolph Bryan, labeled me as this nigga that came from up north, who blew in from up north to come down here to make trouble. That's how I was labeled and framed. So in that, when they arrested me and charged me with arson and so forth, it was Wendell Paris and the Federation of Southern Cooperatives that came to my rescue. in that fight, in that effort, I learned that Chokwe was now residing in Jackson, Mississippi. And they reached out to Chokwe to bring him in on my land issue, to which Chokwe became my lawyer. After, I think, what was it, 2 trials, Wendell?
Yeah.
A mistrial and two mistrials. After that, I was acquitted when they found out that basically it was the white farmer. The engine had been blown on the tractor, and he set it afire to get insurance, but also used it as a way to get rid of me. Chokwe came in. He went against Ben Hilbin and the power structure, basically, the sheriff and the whole shot. And what happened in that year, that was like what, Wendell, 92-ish, 93? Mm-hmm. There were 47 jail hangings of African Americans in Mississippi at that time. Mm-hmm. Chokwe, Wendell, and the Federation wanted to make sure that I wasn't number 48, because that's what they were basically trying to maneuver to have me become a suicide in jail, be it that I hung myself or threw myself over the railing, you know, and committed suicide. But God didn't have that in the cards. And it's funny that you guys mentioning this with Medgar Evers, because out of that scenario, I became the first African-American meat inspector in the history of Mississippi's Department of Agriculture Meat Inspection Division. And in that, when the sheriff and the powers found out that I was employed by the state of Mississippi in that capacity under Jim Buck Ross, who was the Minister of Agriculture, the Commissioner of Agriculture at that time, they came against me again and sought to get me fired, even though I'm down in Jackson, the sheriff and others. They sought to kidnap me from the court proceedings in Mississippi, to which Wendell and Chokwe are present, were my legal counsel and advocates. It's funny that you guys mentioned Medgar Evers in that sense, because it was at that time when the Oktibbeha County Sheriff sought to kidnap me out the courtroom under a ruse saying that I was, I was under arrest. I had been indicted under a secret indictment in Mississippi, and even though Mississippi at that time had no secret indictments. They arrested me and took me over to the Hinds County Jail from the courthouse there, and lo and behold, when they took me out of the car, guess who I was standing in front of looking eye to eye? It was Byron De La Beckwith, the gentleman who murdered Medgar Evers. And so we did this silent stare into each other's eyes. And I'm saying in my mind, so you're the guy that killed Medgar Evers. And they proceeded to take me upstairs to Hinds County Jail, you know, into the lockup, to which Chokwe later came to visit me to see how I was doing, to make sure I was safe and so forth. But out of that whole experience of seeking to farm the land in Mississippi, my case, my land issue became the seminal land issue for Chokwe Lumumba, who our slogan was, as you know, a kill, free the land.
Absolutely.
And from that, the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, the Final Call, had picked up on my story and took it national. And from that, I would say out of that situation, that led to Congressman John Conyers becoming aware of my situation, because he had family relatives from Mississippi, and he had heard and knew about my issue on fighting the power structure to save my family's farmland. And he picked me up after that and brought me on staff, to where I did roughly close to 10 years with Congressman Conyers, to where from that we were successful in getting the largest civil rights settlement ever in the history of African Americans in this country on the USDA Pickett v. Dan Glickman class action lawsuit, which was some $2.5 billion at that time. So I went through all of that, did the tenure with Congressman Conyers, left his employ, not in a good sense, because the power structure came at me again while I was on staff with Congressman Conyers, instead of what they did to me down south, they did to me up south. And they sought to use me as a disgruntled employee to basically turn on Congressman Conyers for a 1999 conference that we did down in, where was it, New Orleans, at the Morial Convention Center. And by this time, the feds and their moles in our office were trying to prevent Congressman Conyers from becoming House Judiciary Chairman under the Bush administration during the Iraq War period. And the fear of Bush at that time was he and my boss were mortal enemies. And Congressman Conyers, as House Judiciary Chairman, would have had or had the power to conduct any hearings that he wanted to do on the no bid contracts that Halliburton received for the logistics and oil contracts that came out of the Iraq War. And Bush and them didn't want that. So they used the Black Farmers Conference and what's called the campaign finance law violation to say, where they set it up to say that the reason that the caterer for that function wasn't paid is that Congressman Conyers and his wife Monica used the $250,000 that was earmarked for the conference catering for his wife and his election campaign cycles of that year, which was a lie. And they wanted me to say that against the congressman, which I wouldn't, because I refused to cooperate with the public corruption probe of the FBI at that time. I became the target. They manufactured it. They basically said, if you don't say this against Congressman Conyers, we're going to say that you took the money. And that's what they did. And I ended up fleeing, going to Ghana. I was in exile for roughly about a year before the feds found me, kidnapped me from Ghana, brought me back to the U.S. I served 5 years protecting my boss, got out. What did I do? Came back, I think, to Mississippi, where Wendell and the crew down there, the Federation and everybody, basically put that hedge around me for me to be able to continue the work that I'm doing now, to which led me to being in the Democratic Republic of Congo, to which I'm married to Congolese. And from that, in association with Maurice, Friends of the Congo, the Lumumba family, the Mobutu family, and so forth, we continued this effort for, which I say is, how do we feed our people? And Wendell and I came up with a saying, we can't free ourselves until we're first able to feed ourselves. Because in reality, in this country and basically around the world, wherever we are as a diaspora, we are a people that cannot feed ourselves. We're being fed. And that's true here in America, all across the urban cities. Most of them are controlled by foreigners. We live in what they call food deficit or deserts and so forth, poor quality and all this sort of thing. And we're nowhere in the $1 trillion economy of agriculture or agribusiness to which our people created to give America this position in the world, which feeding the people is the #1 industry on the planet. I forgot how many trillions of dollars come out of agriculture, but we're nowhere in the scenario. And my effort is, with the potential of Congo to feed over 2 billion people, and the immense agricultural lands that it holds, it has been my continual work and my love for Congressman Conyers and what all Wendell, Paris, the Federation that killed Chokwe, and them did to save my life to do this on behalf of our people. And so now I'm in Colombia, I'm in Panama, I'm in Brazil, linking the African diaspora back to the Democratic Republic of Congo in an effort to empower ourselves, as we did the whites in agriculture, to do this for ourselves as a means of economic development. And we're well on our way in that. And I don't believe that they'll be able to stop us with what we're seeking to do come July 24th and 25th, when we meet with the heads of the African Union and the African Development Bank to implement a plan that we put in place that would empower our people in the diaspora to do and work and trade amongst ourselves in agriculture, rather than the Tysons and the Cargills, the Bungys, and so forth, which we created all of this wealth for them. We're saying now we have the opportunity to do it for ourselves. And now I end there.
Brother Dewey.
Wow.
First and foremost, man, you have a show by yourself. I don't even know why they brought you on here. Yeah, because I'm just saying, brother, I feel, you know, your energy, your spirit. I know the people in the chat. You know, we are man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you guys.
That's because you smoked it so hard they don't.
Let me cut my mic off and you guys go, and I'll hear best what you're speaking.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear us or not, but we say salute to you, and we're grateful that that you have lived to tell your story, and we're looking forward to connecting even harder and working even more. I know that one of the things out of so many that our brother Dewey mentioned was he kept referencing Chokwe Lumumba, who pretty much, I guess, all of us on this program have worked with in some capacity at some time. I have had the opportunity to be on a couple different panels with him. Unfortunately, we were at his funeral when he transitioned, when he was in office down in Jackson. But Akil and Brother Wendell, if you all don't mind, giving us some backstory on one of our most important movement attorneys. You know what I'm saying, of the 21st century, shall I say? You know, that being Chokwe Lumumba. Can either one of you brothers share some history on the Chokwe?
Robert Paris, I'll defer to you. I'll come afterwards.
Age always before beauty, right? Yeah, Chokwe Lumumba was a giant among men in the call to preserve Black-owned lands and for us to utilize that land for economic development among our people. I first met him with when he was working with a group that came to Mississippi to declare that we ought to have maybe 5 states given to us, that we would work to take control of politically and then economically to bring our people forward. And we found, we have our network in place with, Dwayne mentioned the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. We worked across the South. It's an outgrowth of the civil rights movement. Mrs. Hamer with the Freedom Farm, one of the stalwart members. Albert Turner, and well, y'all may not know him. He worked with SCLC in Alabama, but he led the movement in Perry County, Alabama, to get the right to vote there. And really, the Selma to Montgomery March started in Perry County with Albert Turner. And we had folks from Lowndes County, Alabama, the Jackson family there in a cooperative we call Southeast Alabama Self-Help Association. So really, the movement people, as we still stay tied to organizations, especially to Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, but those things that was established as a result of SNCC's involvement, still in place to set up what was called the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. So we pulled people together from around the South to do that. And so we worked with Chokwe to serve as one of the attorneys and one of the ombudsmen for organizational development to take place in Mississippi and across the South. And we had worked with him just a little bit when he was still in Detroit, but we're glad to have him, relocate to Mississippi where he could be as much, if not more, benefit than what he was doing in Detroit. But needs to say he was elected mayor and was doing well, but his health problems that have always been suspect to me. But I don't have any way of proving it. But it was just untimely death. for the city of Jackson and really for the United States and and pulling together movements around the world. Dwayne didn't mention that we were working with sister cities in the Congo, and well, we've already had the first agreement established with Tuskegee University in the Congo, in establishing a relationship there for agricultural development. Because we recognize, as Dwayne vividly pointed out, if you can't feed yourself, you can't free yourself. Quit fooling yourself. So we got to get back to where we are growing. We take control of feeding our folks from every process, every station along the way that's needed to be able to do that. And we have to look at creative ways that we can work together to achieve this. And Mal Lumumba was in the vanguard of putting together that type of movement across, not only across the South, but across the United States and really throughout the African diaspora. And that work is continuing. We're not going to stop it. We have to, but with that, I'll hush and let Akia talk. Excuse me.
We definitely appreciate that. I want to say definitely, that was it's mandatory what you all are talking about right now, because people don't put the connection of food sovereignty and liberation, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have food sovereignty, you don't have sovereignty, right? Whereas folks like Frantz Fanon and George and Baba Hannibal Afrique, long live, his legacy. These brothers and sisters often talked about how you cannot really escape oppression. You can't have true liberation and still depend on your enemy to feed you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so that is for some reason we skip over that part.
Right.
It's like the farmers have no importance. But brother Akim, if you don't mind tapping in.
Absolutely. The Chokwe, the second time he came to Jackson and in Mississippi in '88, and all of this ties together. He was applied to be a part of the Mississippi Bar to practice law in Mississippi, and obviously passed the test and so forth. But the Mississippi Bar Association was very reluctant to grant him bar status. So it's interesting, the fight to actually have Baba Chokwe be able to practice law in Mississippi that was put forth that would have prevented him from doing legal work around cases such as Brother Boyd and others. And that fight culminated in a hearing in the Mississippi Bar Association building. And courtroom was packed. We had gotten tens of thousands of signatures from all over the country on behalf of Baba Chokwe, people coming in to speak on his behalf. And there was a pause in the proceedings. And the folks that was conducting the proceedings were looking at each other, trying to figure out what they could do to prevent this from happening. So one person said, well, just go ahead and ask him. Just ask him. And so their problem was they asked, are you prepared to overthrow the U.S. government? And for those of us who know Chokwe, he kind of, chuckled. He said, well, only through legal means. And of course, the room erupted and it disarmed everything in the proceedings. And they had to grant him his bar status. That was right around the time where I was then an early member of the North African People's Organization, which was not necessarily a surface organization at that time. They were actually working through a group called the Jackson Human Rights Coalition. And I mention that because it ties into Medgar. the Jackson Human Rights Coalition worked to get Beckwith prosecuted. That was some of the work they did early on when Chokwe and others who came to the South, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, to do that work. And through the Jackson Human Rights Coalition, Beckwith was finally prosecuted. An interesting artifact there at the time, during that period, the assistant DA, it is said that he had the rifle on his mantle that murdered Medgar Evers.
Yeah.
This is the assistant DA.
Yeah, at that time here in that, I think Brother Wendell knows that story. Yeah. I can't recall the gentleman's name. He was later on he was dismissed from office and disgraced, with him and the DA at the time for some corruption around money. But yeah, that's the story, that he had the rifle that murdered Medgar.
Yeah, and that was key. When they exhumed the body, they were able to make that connection that this is the exact gun that those shots were fired, that the shot was fired from, that killed Medgar Evers. How did he get it? No, how he got that weapon, no one knows.
Yes,
he just up and.
No, we know. Yeah. we know, but they acting like they don't know.
I forgot my audience here. Please.
Yeah, I'm like, brother, our Wendy was doing well. He started slipping. No one knows. we know well, but I wanted, if you all could, because you've all mentioned Beckwith, whatever it was, it Brian Beckwith.
Byron.
Yeah. I try to. I don't forget, but let's talk about his background, because I don't think that people understand. You talk about that wasn't the first assassination attempt on Medgar. I believe there was a attempted firebombing of the house a few weeks prior, and also they tried to run him over coming out the office. Can you talk about who this individual was? He wasn't just some random shooter that just decided, there's someone black when they shoot him.
Oh no, he was connected to the Ku Klux Klan and also to a thing called the White Citizens Council. Mm-hmm. White Citizens Council basically were Klansmen, upper crust Klansmen, so to speak. They came out of a thing called the Delta Council, which was the council of white farmers. And so the white farmers were instrumental in establishing the White Citizens Council, and kind of did that marriage between the Delta Council and the Ku Klux Klan. So again, back to the role of the FBI there in bankrolling, financing all of this illegal and I don't know what words are missing me right now, but all of us know how dastardly it was, and how they had been murdering people down through the years. Medgar's life was under constant threat. I mean, it wasn't like several instances that we were talking about. All of those folks in that era, and still to this day, that would dare challenge the United States government. You're under threat. My phones are still tapped. I don't care what they hear. I just say the truth and go ahead on. Willie Ricks. No, what do y'all know? The Ricks.
Mukasa
in
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Last conversation we had, I guess 2 or 3 months ago. Why would you try to hide that? They know anyway what you're doing, so just go ahead and do it. So, we worked together in Lowndes County in the establishment of the Black Power movement there. So all of those things came about largely because what had been happening. One civil rights uprising led to another one. all the way back to the beginning when Mrs. Parks, Rosa Parks, sat on that bus in Montgomery, and they were telling her to get up, and all that stuff. She said, I started to get up, but I remembered Emmett Till. It takes it back to, I'm saying everything is tied here, connected here. And so the same thing is true with what was happening with us, with Chokwe and with Medgar Evers and all of those, that they're not going to leave us alone. I mean, you just have to go ahead and do what you're going to do, and
go for broke.
Do whatever they're going to do, and try to build you a category of people around you to know that you won't be going by yourself. That's what they need to understand. You can't leave your behind at home to come get me. You got to bring your behind with you. So, and that's dangerous because I'll fire back, I'll shoot back at you, and folks know that.
Hey, my uncle.
I got a God-given right to protect myself and my family. So that just goes with the territory of being engaged in struggle down here, and all over this country and all over the world with it. We highlight Mississippi and Alabama, but now you got Mississippi, Michigan, you got Mississippi, New York, you sure got Mississippi, Florida. So,
as Malcolm said, anything south of the Canadian border and even beyond that.
Right, exactly right. So
you got Mississippi now.
Connectivity there with all of our folks, and once we do that, we're able to make significant advancements especially in terms of educating our people as what needs to be done. That's the reason what Maurice Conner and Dwayne are so important in doing at this point is to make those connections with institutions in this country. Well, at least we are, when I was a boy, we didn't have to worry about where we was going to get no watermelon seed. My uncle would just go out there and get a knot. A knot is a small watermelon that, if you wasn't going to eat it, but you just take it and throw the knot out there and go over there and stomp it. Next year, you got your watermelon vine growing up. But see, now they have taken over our seed. They have taken over they being corporate agriculture, now to the point where a can of watermelon seed is costing you over $100, and you can't replant that seed. If you replant that seed, you come up with a field full of gourds out there. So that's all of that GMO stuff that they're doing. So we're saying the way that you have to be able to combat that is to go back to where we have some folks with some original seed stock, so we can slip some of those seeds over here some kind of way, and so we can get our people back to where we can counteract all of this genetically modified stuff that's coming back at us and going to kill us all. 98% of the corn in this country is genetically modified. So we 90%. Got eating every day. I mean, when you talking about eating some cereal, you talking about eating some GMO corn. So we got to be able to get around that some kind of way. And the way we do it, we start with what we're doing right now, having honest, open discussions about it with folks from all over, wherever we are on that spectrum, and however we're involved in the diaspora. That's what we have to do. I hate to get on these tirades here, but
we need it. We need it. We need it. I think, and thank you so much, because and I'm so grateful because we talking about Medgar and Patrice, but the need to talk about food sovereignty, like I said, I can't stress that enough. We can't talk about living without food sovereignty and talk about the environment, so on and so forth. But just how dastardly, as you would say, these beasts are. You know what I'm saying? I mean, ain't nothing colder than the white man. I mean, the white man is like I was doing an interview one time. The brother asked me, talking about, do you believe the devil's the white man's the devil? I said, nah, I don't believe the white man's the devil. I think the devil is overrated. Ain't nothing colder than the white man. You understand what I'm saying? The devil ain't got nothing. The devil is an imaginative piece, but the white man is here in the flesh. I want to, we're gonna get to some questions, but one thing I do want to add too is, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was actually, as Medgar traveled, he was usually followed by 2 FBI agents and a deputy. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I mean, because I mean the phone they were they were listening and they knew everything was taking place, and and then they had ministers that they were playing. They had folks working in the civil rights movement that were were agents or provocateurs. I mean that all comes with the territory, but
Right.
yeah, Medgar was always followed. I mean, because they recognized that, as with Patrice Lumumba, he wasn't for sale.
Right.
Medgar didn't play. He was direct in his approach to challenging the white people of Mississippi, and he did that from ever since. I guess the one that really comes to mind is right after he got out from over fighting in World War II with that Normandy invasion, came back, found out that while he was still in the army, that the German prisoners had more freedom on a military basis than the black soldiers who captured them. So time he got out, he and his brother Charles, who also worked followed Medgar immediately as the field secretary for Mississippi, they took a group of black veterans to the Newton County Courthouse to get registered to vote. They over there fighting, everybody fighting over in World War II. You come back home, you can't vote. My granddad in World War I, they told him, all right, nigga, the war over. Go on back and catch the mule now. I mean, this is the United States, this bastion of democracy or something, the world's greatest democracy, the greatest economic system ever to exist, and greatest political system ever to exist. Economics based on free land, free labor, free access to capital,
Free slavery,
free management. Everything you need to set up your economic system, you got it free. You stole it from somebody or you took it from somebody. So when you saying the devil, he got a way to go to catch up with these white people.
That's straight out of Mississippi right there. I want to go. We have about a little less than 30 minutes left, but I want to do a Q&A, a round table more or less, and just shoot off a couple questions at folks. Again, we appreciate you all coming. I know there was supposed to have been more folks coming on today, and for whatever reason, they couldn't make it. Shout out to Dr. Chen. I know that she's in Antigua, I believe, and she was actually our original co-host. I don't know if Kwame tried to hijack the microphone and take over, but we'll get Dr. Chen on next time. But I want to start with you, Maurice, because you've been kind of quiet over there as of late.
No, I've been learning tremendous amount.
Right
Absolutely.
on.
Yes, sir.
No. Yeah, and definitely y'all been learning and teaching. We all have been definitely learning. I want to ask you, what do you see as far as the correlation between Medgar Evers, Patrice Lumumba, food sovereignty, you know what I'm saying, and our liberation, home and abroad? What would be your how would you package that?
Well, I think it's been laid out by Brother Paris and Brother Bakari to convey that the same forces working against us in Mississippi are the same forces working against us in the Congo, and that lesson can't be lost. I know there are movements today that try to separate us and saying that if you were enslaved in the United States, you got a certain privileges that other folks who are enslaved elsewhere don't have. So this discussion is demystifying and breaking down, the fallacy of that argument as to how there's one system. It's just that it expresses itself and dominates Africans no matter where we are. But most importantly, I think it's embodied in Brother Dewey Boyd on a personal level, professional level. He didn't say it, but he's got a Congolese wife. He's married to a Congolese woman. So, but not only is he married to a Congolese woman on a personal level, he's married to a vision that connects Mississippi to the Congo concretely and symbolically, that connects Alabama to the Congo through Tuskegee and Mbujimai, a city in the heart of the Congo. So the message is that not only will we commemorate, we're not just commemorating these figures to present them to a new generation, to introduce them to a new generation, and to draw from their lives and their beliefs, but we're carrying on the tradition. We're doing the work today. Dewey is in the Congo today, exploring agricultural opportunities because we're doing the work. So these commemorations that we do each year is to remind folks that the work still needs to be done. The forces that are against us. So we're not engaged in hero worship or hagiography, but we are reinforcing among ourselves and folks who are watching us that work still needs to be done, and it's being done. So that's what I would share with folks. And the work we're doing, people can check us out at friendsofthecongo.org. Work we're doing with indigenous people, agricultural workers, a whole range of folks in the Congo to carry on the vision of Lumumba, a free and liberated Congo and a free and liberated Africa. So that's primarily the key takeaway, Brother Kalonji, that we still have to do the work because we're not free, we're not liberated, we're not sovereign. And each and every generation must take up that mantle and that banner and carry it on. So that would be the key contribution I have to share with folks.
No doubt, I appreciate that. We appreciate that. I want to ask Akil, and I'm going to ask you all different questions if that's all right with you. Sure. I want to ask Akil because I think Akil's probably we're probably closer to the same generation. I wanted to ask what for you, folks who are checking us out, because we have viewers literally all over the planet, some who are new to movement and some who are seasoned veterans. How important is it to be a part of an organization in 2023? Because we have so many lone runners these days, and we have so many internet freedom fighters and type buys and all that type stuff, but somehow I don't really necessarily reach home. How important to you, or how important is it for folks to join the organization?
I think that there's no question organization, as our brother Kwame Ture preached, organize, organize, organize. And organizations are the institutions by which we work out of. As you stated, individuals come and go. Organizations stand the test of time. Being part of an organization allows you to grow, to learn. No organization is perfect. You gain wisdom over time by learning from your mistakes, acknowledging those mistakes, contradictions, struggling through them principally, and moving forward. Organization is part of the structures that will help us remove ourselves from this condition. The connectedness of Brother Carney and others on the continent, we in the diaspora, is to take organizations connected to move us forward. You're right. There's in this, I have a technology company, so I understand technology very, very intimately. And it allows today for us to be able to project our voices and images across this time and space. And obviously a lot of folks have taken advantage of that in a way to disseminate false and misinformation and to confuse folks who are genuinely seeking how to help us move out of this condition. So organization is key, in my view, a key part of how we do that.
Right on. Right on. Appreciate that. Barbara Wendell, I mean, you've been a resource guide for us today. You know, you took it back like we ain't never leave. You know what I'm saying? You know, so I want to ask you because again, I keep stressing the whole aspect of food sovereignty. We appreciate, you know, you taking the mantle after folks like Medgar Evers and also having a understanding of the roles that our ancestors across the diaspora have had, you know, our elders and our freedom fighters that came before us. I want to ask you, because you know, you and our brother Dewey, or I know y'all call him Dwayne, that may be intimate or whatever, I don't know, but I know that you know, one of the things that you all kept mentioning was around the issue of food. So I want to ask you, uh, how important is food sovereignty, and how do we obtain such a thing? How do we, as organizers, you know, we have literally on this platform right now, the three of us, as far as Maurice, Akil, and myself, we belong to three different organizations, but somehow we find a way to come together, and this is an example of it right here, right? So I want to ask you, as the OG, the original gorilla on the page right now, how do we go about obtaining food sovereignty and connecting it amongst all the organizations and our people as a whole?
Well, I agree 100% with what Akil said there. Organization is key. And you got to find an organization that you know are sincere about moving the needle forward in terms of our people and us becoming an independent people internationally, wherever we are, free people. We do that by continuing to develop associations, by interlocking circles. You know, all of us are now joined because we get time now to utilize this technology stuff that we didn't know in the 1960s. We couldn't get our message out. We had to try to depend on other folks to even do our messaging for us. But now that's we basically have avenues now and opportunity to do that. So we got to continue to organize our base, just at the individual level, then at the regional level, throughout your state or whatever country you're in, and really and have that to reach brothers and sisters around the world. We have to understand it. Doesn't take a lot of intellectual understanding to put that forward. What we need to do is get the ground truth ready for that to take place at the level where we can move from one to the other. You know, we're here in Jackson, the Jackson Public School System, which is the subject to the city of Jackson. We're feeding 28,000 lunches every day. But we don't provide anything for those lunches that's going in. You see what I'm saying? We could do that. We have the land mass to do that. If we don't, we have through the city the power to take the land mass that we need to get what we need to go for our own food stuff. We could put 150 folks to work, a small industry. You know, if you bring up an industry hiring 200 people in Jackson, then you have done something great in terms of economically uplifting that community. Well, we have that power within us, just feeding the institutions that we have under our control. When you look at we got Jackson State University, we got Tougaloo College, we got the Hines County Public School System, and we got the Jackson public school system. We got the Head Start programs. I'm saying here we are still feeding our children out of those cans, filled with sodium, filled with salt, filled with all of that stuff that we know is no good for us. But we have the power to make that change if we can put everybody at the table and see how we're going to work together to bring these things into being. We even have some probably the economic resources that we have to put people back into some level of farming. And what I'm saying, we have the opportunity even to establish urban agricultural enterprises here where we can feed ourselves. So we have to start. What Akil has said is just pivotal, and everybody needs to understand. We're not talking about big eyes and big little U's. We're talking about putting people together who know that there are particular roles that everybody must play to move these things forward. And let's get about the business of how we're going to really free ourselves and free our people worldwide.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Well, I have, I'm going to take a question from the chat. And I don't know if you all have an answer to this. How will Bill 1020 affect people in Mississippi?
I'll say this. As I think I said earlier in the program, it's like Back to the Future, in that there's nothing new under the sun, and neither is Bill 1020. There's a concerted effort, not only in Mississippi, but across the American empire, of a quote unquote rollback of so-called gains. What it has to do with, and this goes back to the work that we and others, we in MXG or NAPO, Nation of Islam, NAACP, and others here, was the idea of some sort of political power. Now, under no illusion that that's the panacea or the end all be all, but understanding that, and I'm going to get to 1020, I just want to lay this groundwork, that our idea, our being MXG and NAPO, when we endeavored into the political arena, is something that Baba Paris alluded to. The city of Jackson at that time was roughly 200,000 people. Its budget was anywhere from $500 to $600 million. Budget of Hinds County that Jackson sits in, budget's anywhere from $150, $175 million. Jackson Public School System at that time, budget anywhere from $200 to $260 million. All of those budgets were funded roughly about 80% through Black tax dollars. Unfortunately, the benefit of those budgets probably was less than 10% to the roughly 85% population of Jackson and the 76, 77% population in Hinds County. Again, our idea was not that holding the late Chokwe Lumumba holding an office or his son or anybody else was going to save us. What we were attempting to do was to work with our people where they were and to create space to point out the contradictions of the system and to create self-determining ideas around self-governance. Taking a page out of the Republic of New Africa and their Kush plan, which was a rural plan, but the idea was to control certain offices that would allow us to have a more equitable distribution of the resources that our tax dollars were being paid to. Now, 1020 is a reaction to that. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. We knew it was coming even before we decided to endeavor publicly into office. We knew that there was going to be a backlash and reaction, and that's what it is, along with the other draconian bills that they passed in the Mississippi legislature. Nothing new. And there's obviously been pushback against it, but this is a reaction to not only our work, but the work prior to, going all the way back to Medgar and others prior to, you know, as Brother Paris says, a continuing cycle.
Right on, right on. No, I definitely, we definitely appreciate that feedback, Brother.
Let me just mention that for your audience who may not understand what the 1020 thing is. This is the governor and the Mississippi legislature taking away the power of the elected officials, the duly elected officials in Jackson to govern Jackson. They're putting in place their own police force. They're putting in place their own judges. They're all of those things that legally supposed to come through the democratic system, the power of the people, they're taking that power away from us. And as he did, as Akia said, this is not just localized to Jackson. This is a movement that they're putting together nationwide. You know, white people have determined that they are going to control this country, regardless of what their numbers are, regardless of, you know, they Dwayne Boyd put it best. They are multiplying arithmetically while we're multiplying exponentially. And they understand that, you know, they're off from 22% to 43% in their United States census figures. So we really, you know, in those communities where we showing that we are 70 and 80%, we may be 90%. They don't want us to know that. And so they have to put this to a stop right here. So that's what we're seeing taking place in Jackson right now. But this is going to go United States wide, I'm sure, and worldwide, because we're talking about, you know, utilizing the resources that's available to be of the most benefit to the most number of people.
Yeah.
Can't have that.
And you're absolutely right, because that's what's going on, of course, in Atlanta or any team in USA. Here in Atlanta right now, they wanted to break off Buckhead, which is one section of Atlanta. Well, you all know, you've been through Atlanta. They wanted to make that their own little city, town, or whatever. But what's happening is backfiring, because the crime is going up over there, quote unquote, and you know, the poor are starting to eat the rich. So it becomes problematic. So this is all a part of when we talk about gentrification. There's the first three letters are gen, and that goes with genocide, because it is genocidal. It is a genocidal practice when these folks come through gentrification, because, you know, as our brother Dwayne was talking about earlier, just the whole separation of the families. That is part of genocide. You are snatching up the land, you are snatching up the legacies, the memories, so on and so forth, and you are murdering us off one way or another, but at the same time, filling these prison cells. Then we have these quote unquote elected officials who are paper tigers. They're toothless. You know, the brother talked about like John Conyers, and you all talked about the work that Medgar was doing and the work that Patrice was doing just politically. You know, making efforts to utilize electoral politics. It's becoming a serious joke here in the United States. This is one of the few places that folks don't take their politics seriously. You know, you have certain countries where, you know, there's bloodshed when it comes to these elections, because they're like, look, this is going to determine literally whether or not we live or die. We've had Cornel West on a few times in the past couple of weeks. We have him coming up again on the 13th of July. We know that he's running for office as a Green Party candidate. Whether or not we agree with electoral politics or not, we have to utilize all strategies, and I think that's what Chokwe attempted to do in Jackson. And you know, they say all politics are local, but of course here in Atlanta right now, we see what's going on with Cop City and so on and so forth. So it's, you know, it is, you know, it's a new form of slavery. Make it look like you have some type of rights. Oh, you guys just want to vote? No problem. Go ahead and vote. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna count it anyway, but, you know, knock yourself out the box. Let us prop up these Negroes who will work on behalf of us. And of course, Mississippi and Georgia and so many places have a long history of that. I thank you all for coming on today on behalf of, well, Maurice can thank on behalf of, he's right here on speak for me. He's not a ventriloquist, you know, but
no, but Kwame abandoned you, so he's like, he couldn't take the heat.
yeah, it's too hot.
He couldn't take the heat.
Background. Yeah.
But definitely on behalf of Friends of the Congo and Brother Kwame for his vision in pulling us together, connecting, you know, Congo, Mississippi, Medgar Lumumba, It's an annual affair, and we're just so grateful to you, Brother Kalonji, for providing us a platform to make this happen. And you can tell from the comments that the program was well received, and people learned a lot, inspired, and really ready to join our organizations, ready to put in more work. Yes, that's what it's about at the end of the day, putting in the work and organizing, because that's the only way we're going to be free.
That's very important. I honestly, selfishly, I don't care if you watch my particular program if you're not interested in organizing. You know what I'm saying? This is, we can crack a joke here and there, but we're about movement building. We're about organization. We're about structure, so on and so forth. We're about the unification of African people. We're anti-colonialists, anti-imperialists. And at the same time, like I said, I make no qualms about saying that I am us first, because it's almost like a revolutionary act to call yourself an African. The first thing, you say you're an African, people lose their mind. Oh, ain't no African. Listen, man, nobody got time for the empty rhetoric or the fashionable militancy. At the end of the day, we're in the pan, about to get, and the heat's getting turned up. And we're trying to decide what label we want to hop up under. You know what I'm saying? But the state got something for you, regardless of what it is you feel.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to having you all back on the platform again. And feel free to please call on me whenever, or call on us whenever you have anything that you deem is worthwhile and worthy of our people's attention, because it's mandatory that we collectively come together and get out the proper information and combat this propaganda that the state is giving us.
I say.
Right on. So
Thank
y'all
you
be
all.
safe.
Appreciate
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Black power.
Everybody.
Right on. Black
We
power.
later, everybody.
By any means necessary. Yes. You're checking out RSTV right here on Black Power Media. And indeed, we are emphasizing Black Power. It is absolutely imperative that we continue to push the envelope in regards to who and what we are, and our conditions, and and what it is we're here to do. I want to point out that my organization is the FTP movement, so nobody get that twisted. But I want to point out that we're working on a couple things. For one, we have our documentary we've been working on for years, Organizing is the New Cool. We intend on dropping that relatively soon, over the course of the next year. We are on our 20th year. We'll be hitting our 20-year anniversary of the FTP movement next June. So we'll have a number of different programs and teach-ins, political education series, both live and virtual. So please look out for that. At the bottom ticker, you see that we have a new Patreon, Organizing is the New Cool, which supports our documentary, our organization, and also more programming, because I want to be able to bring programming outside of what it is that you're getting right here. So if you find it in your heart, hit our Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/OITNC. You can find out more about our film at organizingsthenewcool.com. You can find out about our organization at thepeoplesarmy.org, thepeoplesarmy.org. Again, we thank you all for coming out here on a Sunday afternoon, and we will win in spite of ourselves. Y'all be safe out there. Stay ready for revolution.